You're listening to a podcast by Way Collective, a contemplative community for love and liberation in Santa Barbara, California. This recording was the conversation starter and reflection exercise at our Dinner and Dialogue gathering on March 18th, 2026. Thanks for tuning in. All right, friends. Well, tonight is going to be pretty short and sweet for me because we're continuing this Lenten journey of giving up and waking up, but in a way that's maybe a little more playful or a little more embodied and hopefully a little revealing too. And most of our work is going to be done around the tables in a fun reflection and conversation exercise. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been circling around this idea that Lent is not really about punishing ourselves. It's not spiritual performance. It's not proving how disciplined or how serious we are. It's about loosening our grip on the things that keep us asleep, the things that keep us reactive, and the things that keep us identified with the smaller self. And we've said that when we give something up, what we're really doing is creating space to become more present, more awake, more loving, and more available to reality as it actually is. And last week, we named that a little more directly. We talked about the ego, about the false self, about those parts of us that have to organize and defend and perform and distinguish ourselves and manage our identity in order to feel secure. But the ego isn't bad. It's not evil. It's just limited, right? This isn't about shaming ourselves or about that really prideful part of ourselves that we should feel bad about. It's just limited. It's the self we construct to move through the world. And as Richard Rohr reminded us last week, the trouble is not that we have a false self, because we all do. The trouble is that we take it far too seriously. So tonight we're going to have a little fun with that. And tonight the invitation was to come as your ego. So some of us are dressed up. Some of us brought something that represents us. Some of us didn't feel like doing that, and we're just maybe going to talk about that part of ourselves. But some of you may have dressed up as a part of yourself that tends to lead the way in your life, right? Some of you may have brought an object that represents a role or an identity or a persona or some part of yourself that you know how to wear really well. And some of you may just be coming ready to think about that part of you that likes to be admired or needed or accomplished or right or unique or in control, or maybe even the part you want to hide, right? And honestly, that's all we're doing tonight. We're kind of noticing the costumes we wear. Not to shame them, not to mock ourselves, not to pretend we don't need identities at all, because again, we all do. But we're doing it just to see them a little more clearly, to hold them a little more lightly, and to maybe even laugh a little at the ways that we all dress up in our lives. Because the contemplative path is not about hating the self. It's about seeing through the smaller self into something deeper, something truer, and something more spacious and more interconnected. And in a more contemplative form of language, we might say that there's something in you that's deeper than any role you play, deeper than any identity you construct, something that doesn't come and go with your successes or your failures, something that even the mystics might say was never born and never dies. This is what Thomas Merton and many others have called the true self. And here's the paradox. We don't get to the true self by bypassing the ego. We don't get there by pretending that it's not there. We get there by becoming intimate with it, by noticing it, by listening to it, by seeing how it tries to protect us and define us and keep us together, and then gently by taking slow steps away from it in a contemplative manner in order to realize it's not the whole story of who we are. So tonight around the tables, I want to invite us into that spirit of playful honesty and a little gentle curiosity and some compassionate self-awareness. Asking things like, what part of me do I tend to wear? What does that part of me protect? And what does it want? And who might I be underneath all the performing and striving and proving and polishing, again, or even hiding? Because every time we notice one of the costumes, we loosen our grip on it And if we do that even just a little, we make a little more room for presence, a little more room for freedom, a little more room for love. And this is big for me, a little more room to love ourselves just as we are, with our own weird quirks and interests and those parts of ourselves that we're representing tonight. And maybe, just maybe, when that love can ground us, we can begin to sense that deeper self, the one that was never in danger to begin with, the one that doesn't need to prove anything, the one that's already held in something vast and loving. So welcome everyone. Let's meet our egos and maybe together catch a glimpse of something deeper beneath them. So for the podcast, I'm actually going to read our ego contemplative reflection sheet. It's in 4 movements, and the first movement is called Show and Tell and a Twist. So the invitation is to share by going around your table and inviting each person to share what they wore, brought, or one aspect of their person. Could be an interest, a job, or a role, etc. You can share what part of yourself it represents. You can also share when that part of yourself is most active in your life. Then the reflect exercise here, the twist, is asking, when is this part of you helpful or protective? And when might it start to feel limiting, heavy, or not quite the whole story of who you are? Okay, the second movement is if this part of me could speak. So the share exercise is go around your table and invite each person to briefly speak as their ego. You can say, hi, I'm the part of myself that always needs to be seen as capable. I'm the one who keeps everything together. I'm the achiever, the helper, the one who avoids conflict. Could be any of those kinds of things. And then the reflect exercises then ask, what does this part of you want? And what is it afraid of? And the third movement is asking, what's underneath? So this one only has a reflection exercise, and the reflection is invite a quieter round by asking, if this part of you could relax, even just a little, what might be underneath it? And then again, you can ask, who are you when you're not performing this role? Again, the goal of this is not to get rid of the ego, but just to notice what else is here when it loosens. And lastly, the fourth movement is about tracing common threads. So this is a sharing exercise. Now you can ask your group in conversation, what patterns are you noticing across our ego stories? And where do our egos look surprisingly similar or different? Thanks for listening to this podcast by Way Collective. To keep up with our community, you can subscribe to this podcast, go to www.waycollective.org, or follow us on Instagram at @waycollective. Peace and every good, y'all.